You look up at the sky on a cloudless night. You see an infinite number of twinkling stars, and in deep thought, you ask yourself the intriguing question: is there any other life in this universe besides us? The possibility of extraterrestrial life and the curiosity about aliens has fascinated many people from past to present. Especially since several important events in the mid-20th century, the curiosity has intensified, and the subject has come up again and again with different events, conspiracy theories, fake news, scientific projects, and cases that still remain a mystery. In order to cover all these developments, our video will be divided into 2 parts, and we will avoid unnecessary claims, such as whether aliens definitely exist or not. In the first part, we will talk about the important cases that have made a splash in the world, and in the second part, we will talk about the world-famous Fermi paradox and the important projects underway. Before we move on to part 1, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. This will give me motivation to make more videos on interesting topics. Roswell Incident. In July 1947, a strange object fell from the air in the small town of Roswell, New Mexico, scattering fragments in several places. The farmers who were around at the time notified the local base, and the government immediately arrived on the scene to investigate. For the first time in its history, the U.S. military publicly announced that the object was a flying saucer, but later clarified that it was part of a high-altitude balloon used in an Air Force experiment. This event was not simply forgotten with a simple explanation, but rather sparked conspiracy theories and speculation about aliens and UFOs. Nearly 30 years later, the Roswell incident came to the fore again, when Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel told ufologist Stanton Friedman that the debris was indeed extraterrestrial and had been covered up by the military. It was normal that it came to the fore, because the year it happened, Jesse Marcel was an intelligence officer at Roswell Air Base, and it was his job to investigate such cases. He told nuclear physicist and professional ufologist Stanton Friedman about what he saw, and Friedman put all his research on the subject into a book. According to Friedman, it was first necessary to start the investigation at the root of the incident. So the surviving witnesses were asked what they had seen on the day of the event. The answers were consistent with each other. They all said they had seen human-like beings with black eyes, a large head, grayish skin, and that they were probably dead. It was impossible for everyone to make things up at the same time and in the same way. But the fact that none of them had any evidence to prove what they said, and the long time that had elapsed, did not constitute any evidence for science. Let us now look at the most controversial allegations about the incident. Some ufologists claimed that the aliens were taken for interrogation and autopsy by the U.S. Air Force and government conspirators, and that their technology was copied as a result of the information obtained. There is even a tape of an autopsy of an alien that is claimed to be unoriginal. A British UFO enthusiast named Ray Santilli bought the tape from a military cameraman in Florida and sold it to a Los Angeles-based program producer named Bob Kiviat because he knew its value. Although the footage is presumed to be a fake, the interesting thing is that there is still no clear evidence of this spectacular forgery. Other claims are that this object is a flying saucer-like structure that the Nazis wanted to develop during World War II. Of course, it is known that the Nazis were working on secret projects to win the war at that time, but it seems unlikely that the Roswell incident, which took place 2 years after the war, was related to the Nazis. In 1994, due to the increasing allegations, the U.S. Air Force felt the need to make a new statement and presented a comprehensive 975-page report explaining that the wreckage was a secret nuclear test surveillance balloon belonging to Project Mogul. But there is another detail. According to Jesse Marcel's son, Junior Marcel, on the day his father was investigating the incident, he came home to show his family a piece of the wreckage and noticed that his father was more excited than usual. Junior Marcel later added the following words: "That day I examined a piece of the wreckage and saw that it had strange symbols on it that I have never forgotten." On page 302 of the 975-page report, the government, which was aware of this fragment, said that these symbols were simple flower-like symbols that made no sense, but Junior Marcel was adamant that the symbols on the fragment were not the same as the symbols in the report. Above all, people were more curious about the source of the rumors of alien bodies that were circulating. Another report published by the government in 1997 stated that the alien stories originated from test dummies dropped from high altitudes. But why did witnesses testify that the dummies resembled a strange being rather than a human being? This is another question that creates doubt among people. As you can see, even though the Roswell incident has become one of the government's most pressing issues, requiring explanation, and remains a supposedly debunked empty UFO claim, what exactly happened and what exactly we are supposed to believe is still unknown. Barney and Betty Hill couple. This is the first, and so far, the most famous UFO abduction case in history. More precisely, it is the biggest claim ever made by a couple named Barney and Betty Hill in 1961. The couple was returning from a vacation with their dog in New Hampshire when they saw an object emitting red lights. After getting out of the car, Barney Hill uses his binoculars to get a closer look at the object and sees a spaceship with more than 10 aliens inside. Unable to believe what he sees, Barney becomes even more frightened by the noise the spaceship is making, gets in the car, and tries to escape. Then suddenly they find themselves at home. Looking at the clock, they realize that about 2 hours have passed, and interestingly, neither of them can remember what happened during that time. The couple soon reported the incident to their friends in the U.S. Army, but they could not make sense of the situation as they could not remember many details. After more than 2 years of Betty dreaming at night that the same gray beings are experimenting on her, they become increasingly disturbed and decide to try hypnosis. Under hypnosis, Betty says that a pregnancy test was inserted into her navel and painful experiments were carried out on her. But more than that, she says that one of the gray creatures showed her a star map. While Barney draws the flying saucer he saw with his binoculars, the experts translate Betty's hypnotic description of the star map into a visual. Although this incident was inconclusive at the time, years later it was emphasized that many things Betty Hill said were true. For example, the star map Betty described turned out to be the Zeta Reticuli star system discovered years later. An abnormal biological substance was discovered in her dress, and a pregnancy test that can be done by inserting a needle into the navel was found. Even so, it remains a mystery whether the UFO incident involving the couple Betty and Barney Hill was a well-thought-out fiction or a real one. Arecibo message and wow signal. In 1974, with the idea of reaching 10 million civilizations, a radio message called the Arecibo message was sent from the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico to the constellation Hercules, 25,000 light-years away. It was the first message and the most powerful radio signal ever sent into space, confirming the existence of our civilization. The message signal, which was sent for 3 minutes and contained important information about Earth and man, had a power of 3 trillion watts and was organized to carry 10 bits of data per second. The Arecibo message was designed as a binary code of zeros and ones. The information content was prepared by Dr. Frank Drake, the creator of the famous Drake equation, who was at Cornell University at the time, Carl Sagan and his colleagues. Thus, if the message reaches any intelligent civilization, it is hoped that information such as our DNA code, a schematic visualization of our solar system, the numbers of elements important for life and our physical appearance, will be understood. We'll come back to the actual event that brought the message back into the spotlight, but for now, we'll talk about an interesting signal that was supposedly sent for us. On August 15, 1977, a signal was detected from the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University. The signal, which was incredibly strong and lasted only 1 minute and 12 seconds, was called WOW. Despite many attempts, the source of the signal could not be identified, which gave rise to some possibilities. For example, according to research published in the peer-reviewed scientific journal International Journal of Astrobiology, The signal could have come from a sun-like star in the constellation Sagittarius, 1,800 light-years away. Another possibility is that the signal came from a natural source or something man-made. In other words, the scientific community has not been able to come to a definitive conclusion on this issue either, and the origin of the signal remains unclear so far. Crop circles. Just 27 years after it was sent into space, an interesting event took place that reminds us of the Arecibo message I mentioned earlier. In 2001, a complex pattern appeared in a crop field near an observatory in the United Kingdom. When the pattern was examined in detail, some differences stood out, in particular the DNA helix, the physical changes in the human form, and the addition of silicon between the atomic numbers made the pattern even more interesting. This is why some people thought it was a response message from outer space, while others believed it was a fake. The truth is that even if the aliens received our message, it is highly unlikely that they would recognize it as a message and respond in the same way in the very short period of 27 years. But it does not end with this pattern. As if this pattern wasn't enough to confuse people, complex shapes called crop circles began to appear near historical monuments such as Stonehenge and Avebury in England. While everyone was wondering if these shapes were made by humans or if aliens were trying to send us new messages, two British men, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley, confessed everything. They revealed that since 1978 they have been creating approximately 250 crop circles in order to deceive people because of their interest in UFO phenomena. Moreover, this video, showing strange objects forming patterns in a short period of time, was later revealed to be fake. Let's say these two friends made the crop circles, but how come no one noticed when they were making the circles? How come they were able to make the shapes so perfectly in such a short time? These are the questions that concern those who do not believe these confessions. It became a phenomenon in many countries when other people copied their method and began to draw crop shapes in the fields. Today we can even see people doing different artistic works similar to this, apart from crop circles. However, the shapes they both made afterwards to convince everyone did not solve the mystery, because many people said that the later circles were not as perfect as the early crop circles. The general consensus is that the crop circles were just a group artistic endeavor by a few talented people. What do you think? Is it possible for two people to create such a perfect shape in one night? Or do some people exaggerate every event? Pentagon UFO videos. Watch these 3 different videos first.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. Nickel 6-1 Tango, Roger, over. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting. Can you box moving target?
These videos have been dubbed Gimbal, Go Fast, FLIR 1, and were recorded by U.S. Navy pilots in 2004 and 2015. The videos were officially verified by the Pentagon in 2020 after being leaked to the public in 2017 and 2018. In short, the Pentagon acknowledges that these videos are real and contain UAPs, but explains that they do not know for sure what the objects are. Scientists have suggested that they could be optical illusions, aerial phenomena, or secret military projects. But in 2021, the U.S. government published a report on UAPs in which it stated that the nature of these objects could not be concluded and could not be explained by known technologies. As you can see in all the cases described so far, the public is demanding more information and transparency, which means that without coherent explanations and clearer evidence, each one will remain a mystery in its own right. The next 3 cases I'm going to tell you about have nothing to do with aliens, which initially caused a lot of noise, but were proven to be fake and have sufficiently convincing explanations. The Phoenix Lights Incident. Hundreds of Arizona residents who saw these images live called the police and local news stations, to report that 4 or 5 bright red lights were hovering silently over the city. The lights formed a triangle shape with their positions, but after a while they changed their position to a rectangular shape and then disappeared one by one. The Air Force later confirmed these reports, but responded that there were no unusual targets or unidentified aircraft on our radar screens, and we do not know where the lights came from. Of course, the most popular theories on the subject are still those about UFOs and aliens. Immediately, popular UFO and alien theories began to emerge, but the mystery remained for only 2 days, because an anonymous man claimed on one of the television channels that he had created the lights by releasing flares attached to balloons inflated with helium gas into the sky at 1-minute intervals. Some people laughed at the hoax, others were outraged, and many UFO enthusiasts with a penchant for conspiracy theories did not believe the explanation. Of course, just because someone comes forward and admits to having played such a game does not mean that the case is completely solved. However, further investigation revealed that the lights moved vertically and in the direction of the wind that day, like balloons. If the lights were the only visible part of a metal spacecraft or airplane, then they would show up on radar. In addition, a neighbor of the person who played the game, a Mr. Malo, said that he saw his neighbor release helium balloons and flares into the sky. All this explains the mysterious Phoenix lights of 2008 and 1997. What remains to be seen is how easy it is to deceive the public and create media confusion with any hoax. Mummies of Nazca. In 2018, photos and reports emerged of 5 mummy-like bodies with 3-fingered hands and mummy-like features found in the Nazca region of Peru. These reports, promoted by an internet platform called Gaia, claimed that these mummies were not human based on DNA tests and radiocarbon dating. Many scientists and archaeologists expressed doubts that the mummies could be fakes, even suggesting that the mummies could be modified human remains. In fact, after detailed investigations, it was clearly determined that the mummies were most likely fakes and were created by manipulating human remains. The Peruvian government then issued statements confirming that the mummies were fakes. 12 Peruvian mummy researchers even issued a statement condemning the forgery, saying that this practice violates many national and international norms. Guido Lombardi, professor of forensic sciences at the University of Cayetano Heredia, one of the researchers who signed the statement, said, "I find it disgusting that people dare to dismember the bodies of dead people in this way. You can't dehumanize a human being in this way." Alien fossil in Mexico. Anyone who uses social media is probably aware of the fossils of 2 allegedly alien beings that appeared at a congressional hearing in Mexico City, the capital of Mexico, on September 13, 2023. The corpses, presented by journalist and ufologist Jaime Maussan, were claimed to be 1,000-year-old fossilized remains of extraterrestrials. After this claim, scientists took the fossils under deeper scrutiny, and it was found that 72 out of 100 of their genomes belonged to humans. The fact that the remaining 28 out of 100 could not be read after this analysis caused fake posts on social media, such as 30% of this fossil does not belong to humans. But the point is that it does not say does not belong to humans. It is written that it cannot be read, and this is related to the rigor of the data collected at the time of analysis. For example, in the genome analysis performed with a natural sample taken from human skin, 6 out of 100 parts could not be read. Does this make that human 6% alien? Of course not. It seems that Jaime Maussan and his supporters are once again making a lot of unnecessary noise after the Nazca allegations. It is assumed that these fossils are most likely a composite of pre-Columbian human remains or animal bones put together with plaster. Thus, another fraud story has been professionally solved. There are many people in the world who call themselves scientists, but actually make false grand claims and conduct fake projects. When questioned, these individuals can never provide logical explanations, and upon deeper investigation, it often becomes evident that their intentions are rooted in fraud. Certainly, there are also people who pursue the truth, who are not easily convinced by every explanation and who strive to uncover the mysteries. For example, those who continue to investigate the unresolved cases I mentioned earlier. Who knows, perhaps one day everything will be revealed with all the facts. Or maybe we should not doubt the explanations provided by governments. Ultimately, everything depends on our beliefs. If you ask me, there are many things we do not know, and for now, we should wait to see what the coming years will bring. Therefore, I look forward to your interesting comments on the topic and wish you all a good day until the second part of our video.